Have you ever noticed how much energy you spend trying to make people act the way you wish they would? You plan, you push, you persuade, you even beg, and still they do exactly what they want. And in the end, you are the one left drained, frustrated, and wondering why life feels so heavy. What if the problem was never them, but the way you are fighting to control what was never yours to control? That is the question behind the idea called the let them theory. A simple phrase, two small words, yet powerful enough to shift the way you live. Let them. Let them cancel plans. Let them ignore your advice. Let them walk away if they choose. Because when you let them, you stop wasting your peace trying to manage their choices, and you start reclaiming your own freedom. This idea has spread like wildfire. Millions of people around the world are talking about it, sharing it, and discovering the relief that comes from those two words. Why? Because deep down, all of us know what it feels like to carry the burden of trying to control what cannot be controlled. We know the exhaustion of trying to convince someone to see our worth. We know the frustration of holding on to people who clearly want to go their own way. The let them theory speaks to that universal struggle, and it offers a way out. And here is the truth. Letting them is not about weakness, it is about strength. It is not giving up, it is stepping up. It is saying my peace matters more than your approval. It is realizing that the only person you are responsible for is you. And once you see that clearly, life begins to feel lighter, calmer, and more meaningful. So, in this journey we are about to take together, I want you to imagine what your life would look like if you stopped fighting to control everyone around you. Imagine the weight you would put down, the peace you would gain, the energy you would reclaim. Because the truth is, your freedom begins the moment you decide to let them. At its heart, the let them theory is simple, but simple does not mean easy. It is the practice of allowing people to do exactly what they choose without making it your job to fix them, change them, or convince them. It sounds small, just two words, let them. Yet when you live by it, everything changes. Think about the last time you felt hurt because someone did not invite you, or frustrated because a friend ignored your advice, or disappointed because someone you trusted failed to show up for you. In those moments, your natural instinct is to explain, to push, to control the situation, so it will not happen again. You might overthink what you said, replay the conversation, or create a plan to prevent the same disappointment in the future. But here is the truth. The more you try to control others, the less peace you have. The let them theory turns the whole game upside down. Instead of asking, how can I make them do what I want? You ask, why am I trying so hard to make them do anything at all? The answer is usually fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being unseen. Fear of not being enough. But when you step back and simply let them, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You see people for who they are, not who you hope they might become. And once you see them clearly, you can make choices from a place of peace instead of desperation. Letting them does not mean you agree with their choices. It does not mean you have no boundaries. It means you stop fighting battles that were never yours to win. If a friend continually cancels plans, let them. That choice tells you everything you need to know about where you stand in their life. If a colleague constantly ignores your input, let them. Their actions reveal more about their respect than about your worth. If a partner refuses to commit, let them, because forcing commitment never builds trust. The power of the let them theory is that it frees you from the illusion of control. You cannot make someone love you, respect you, or value you. You cannot make them act with integrity or kindness. You can only decide what you will do when they don't. And that decision, though difficult, puts the power back in your hands. When you let them, you are not giving up. You are growing up. You are saying, my peace is more important than your choices. You are choosing to stop begging people to show you who they are, and instead allowing them to reveal it naturally. That revelation may be painful, But it is also liberating, because once you know the truth, you can decide how to move forward without pretending. So ask yourself, what would change if you simply let them? Let them have their opinions, let them make their mistakes, let them walk away if that is their path. And while they do, you stay grounded, calm, and free. Because the truth is, letting them is not about them at all. It is about you finally choosing peace over control. If the let them theory feels difficult, it is because letting go cuts against everything we have been taught. Most of us grow up believing that if we try harder, explain more clearly, or push a little longer, we can make people behave the way we want. We are told that love means holding on, that leadership means directing, that success means managing every outcome. But beneath all of this effort lies something deeper, a fear we rarely admit. The truth is, the need to control is almost always the child of anxiety and insecurity. Think of it like rowing a boat upstream. Dr. Amy Johnson once used this image to describe the way we fight against life. When you cling to the oars, rowing furiously against the current, you feel exhausted, frustrated, and stuck. But when you release the oars, when you trust the river to carry you, you finally feel peace. Control feels safe in the moment, but it is actually the source of your restlessness. It is not the current that is hurting you. It is the way you fight it. Why do we do it? Because control gives the illusion of safety. When someone does not behave as we expect, we worry it means we are unworthy. So we try to shape their actions, to protect our own hearts. A parent demands their child follow every rule, not just for discipline, but because deep down they fear being seen as a bad parent. A friend insists that everyone include them, not because they love company, but because being left out confirms their deepest fear of being forgotten. A partner pressures for constant reassurance, not because they do not trust, but because they cannot bear the thought of being abandoned. Control feels like love, but it is actually fear in disguise. It is the anxious mind whispering, if I can make them do what I want, I will finally feel safe. But the safety never comes, because no matter how hard you try, you cannot control another person's choices. And the harder you try, the more distant peace becomes. The irony is that control often drives away the very things we long for. When you cling tightly to someone, they feel suffocated. When you push for approval, people feel pressured. When you demand perfection, you create resentment. And in the end, the peace you are chasing slips further away. Control is not connection. It is a substitute for trust. This is why the let them theory is so radical. It calls out the lie that control equals love. It reminds us that peace comes not from forcing others into our vision, but from releasing them to their own. When you let them, you are no longer rowing upstream. You are allowing life to flow as it is, not as you demand it to be. And in that release, anxiety loses its grip. Ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you fighting hardest to control? Is it in your relationships, where you replay every word, hoping to avoid rejection? Is it in your family, where you carry burdens that were never yours to carry? Is it in your work, where you chase recognition that never feels enough? These patterns are not weakness, they are signals. They are pointing to the places where fear has been pretending to be love. The good news is that awareness is the first step toward freedom. The moment you see that control is fueled by insecurity, you can begin to choose differently. You can put down the oars. You can remind yourself that you cannot stop every current, but you can choose not to fight it. You can let them, not because you do not care, but because you care enough about your own peace to stop sacrificing it for the illusion of control. Because the truth is, your worth has never depended on how well you manage others. It has never been measured by how many people listen to you, approve of you, or stay with you. It has always been constant, even when others choose differently. The need to control is a symptom, not your identity. And the cure is the courage to let go. The let them theory is powerful, but like every tool, it must be used with wisdom. To let them does not mean you turn a blind eye to everything. It does not mean you allow harm to continue unchecked. And it does not mean you surrender your values. Letting them is about protecting your peace, not abandoning your responsibility. So it is important to recognize the moments when letting them is not the answer, when silence or passivity could cause more harm than good. The first warning is when someone is about to put themselves or others in real danger. If a friend is about to drive after drinking, letting them is not love, it is neglect. If a family member is sinking into dangerous behavior that threatens their life or the lives of others, stepping back is not compassion, it is avoidance. Letting them in these situations is not peace. It is passivity in the face of harm. Love requires courage, and sometimes that courage means stepping in, setting firm boundaries, or calling for help. Letting them does not mean abandoning common sense or safety. It means choosing peace where peace is possible, but refusing to allow danger to go unchecked. The second warning is when it comes to your own rights, your dignity, or your well-being. Too often we confuse letting them with allowing ourselves to be mistreated. But the let them theory was never meant to excuse abuse, disrespect, or exploitation. If a colleague continually dismisses your contributions, letting them without speaking up is not maturity, it is self-betrayal. If a partner crosses boundaries again and again, silence is not wisdom, it is surrender. Letting them is about choosing freedom, not tolerating harm. There are moments when the most peaceful choice is to speak, to stand, and to protect your own worth. The third warning is when letting them becomes a pattern that enables destructive behavior. Imagine a child who never faces the consequence of forgetting their homework, or a loved one who continues borrowing money they never repay, or a friend who repeatedly takes advantage of your kindness. To let them again and again without consequence is not teaching them responsibility. It is teaching them that you will always absorb the cost. Letting them in these situations only fuels the cycle. True peace is not found in carrying someone else's burden endlessly. Sometimes love means stepping back and allowing others to face the results of their choices, even when it is uncomfortable to watch. So how do you know when letting them is wise and when it is dangerous? The key is to ask yourself, what will bring more peace in the long run, not just in this moment? If stepping back allows harm, the answer is no. If silence betrays your dignity, the answer is no. If passivity enables a destructive pattern, the answer is no. Letting them is never about giving up your voice. It is about giving up the illusion that you can control the uncontrollable. But your safety, your integrity, and your boundaries are not negotiable. This is why discernment is essential. The let them theory is not a blanket rule. It is a mindset shift. It is about choosing wisely where to invest your energy. Sometimes that means letting someone have their opinion without debate. Sometimes it means letting a friend cancel plans without chasing after them. And sometimes it means saying no firmly because your peace depends on it. So remember this. Letting them is about freedom, not foolishness. It is about choosing peace where peace is possible, but refusing to allow harm to masquerade as love. It is about releasing control where you have none, and standing strong where you must. The power of the let them theory is not in passive surrender. It is an intentional choice. Because the truth is, peace is not about saying yes to everything. Peace is about knowing when to let go and when to hold firm. And when you learn to tell the difference, you protect not only your own well-being, but the integrity of every relationship you touch. The let them theory is not meant to stay as an inspiring idea you hear once and forget. Its true power comes when you put it into practice in the details of daily life. And the good news is that you do not need dramatic changes to see the difference. What you need is the willingness to shift your response, to choose peace over control, and to release what was never yours to carry. There are 3 powerful ways to live this out, and each one opens the door to a life of greater freedom and fulfillment. The first way is practicing detachment, the art of stepping back from expectations that drain you. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means releasing the need for others to behave according to your script. Think about the last time you felt left out. Maybe you were not invited to a gathering. Maybe someone you loved did not show up for you the way you hoped. The instinct is to spiral into self-doubt, to replay every detail wondering what you did wrong. But the let them theory invites you to pause and say, let them. Let them go where they want. Let them choose who they spend time with. Let them reveal what matters most to them. And while they do, you choose peace. You stop wasting your energy trying to prove your worth to people who do not value it, and you begin investing that energy into places where you are seen and celebrated. Detachment is not losing love, it is protecting your soul. The second way is allowing people to take responsibility for their own lives and lessons. One of the most exhausting roles we play is rescuer, the one who fixes, who saves, who absorbs the consequences, so others do not have to face them. It feels noble, but often it is fear disguised as love. When your child forgets their lunch, your instinct may be to rush and deliver it, but sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them experience the discomfort of forgetting. When a loved one continues making reckless financial choices, you may want to cover their debts again. But sometimes the kindest act is letting them feel the weight of their decisions. Because growth rarely happens in comfort. If you always intervene, you protect them from pain, but you also protect them from maturity. Let them face their own lessons, not out of cruelty, but out of belief in their ability to learn and grow. The third way is choosing to accept people as they are instead of who you hope they could become. Many of us waste years holding on to potential, convinced that if we just love harder, push more, or wait long enough, they will change. But the truth is, you cannot build a life on potential. You can only build on reality. Maybe your partner has habits you dislike. Maybe your friend never matches your level of effort. Maybe a family member continues in patterns that frustrate you. The let them theory invites you to stop fighting who they are and start asking, can I accept them as they are today? If the answer is yes, you choose to love them in that reality. If the answer is no, you give yourself permission to step back. Acceptance does not mean lowering your standards. It means facing the truth. And the truth, while sometimes painful, is always freeing. These 3 practices, detachment, responsibility, and acceptance, are simple to describe but challenging to live. They require courage, because they force you to let go of illusions that have kept you comfortable. They require humility, because they remind you that you do not control other people's choices. And they require faith, because they ask you to trust that letting go will lead to more peace than holding on ever could. So how do you begin? Start small. The next time you feel left out, instead of begging for inclusion, whisper to yourself, let them. The next time you want to rescue someone from their own consequences, pause and remind yourself that their growth depends on their struggle. The next time you are tempted to believe someone's potential instead of their reality, ask if you can live with who they are today, not just who you hope they become. Each choice may feel uncomfortable, but each one builds the muscle of freedom. And here is the beauty. The more you practice, the lighter you become. You stop carrying burdens that were never yours. You stop wasting energy on battles you cannot win, and you stop measuring your worth by other people's choices. Instead, you begin to experience a quiet strength, a deep calm, and a freedom that comes only when you release control. Because the let them theory is not about giving up. It is about stepping into a higher way of living. It is about choosing peace over pressure, trust over fear, and reality over illusion. And when you live this way, You not only free yourself, you also free others to be who they are, without manipulation or demand. That is the kind of love that heals, the kind of strength that lasts, and the kind of peace that cannot be stolen. The let them theory is not just a clever phrase. It is a tool, a mindset, a way of living that frees you from battles you were never meant to fight. But to truly live it, you need more than inspiration. You need practice. Because letting go does not come naturally when you have spent years holding tight. It requires intentional steps, daily choices, and a willingness to trust that peace is worth more than control. One of the most powerful tools you can use is asking yourself honest questions. When you feel the urge to control, pause and ask, what am I afraid of? Fear often hides beneath the surface of control. Fear of rejection, fear of being unseen, fear of losing love. Naming the fear weakens its grip. Another question to ask is, whose business am I in right now? Am I in my own, or am I trying to manage someone else's life? Most of our stress comes from leaving our lane, from believing it is our job to fix what belongs to another. And finally, ask, what choice will bring me more peace? Not more power, not more control, but more peace. That single shift in focus can change the entire direction of a situation. You can also practice letting go in small, everyday ways. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of chasing justice, let them. When a colleague interrupts you, instead of arguing for your space, breathe and continue calmly. Let them reveal who they are. When a friend forgets to include you, instead of begging for attention, let them, and notice who shows up without being asked. Each time you do, you remind yourself that peace is a choice, and that choice belongs to you. Another tool is visualization. Picture yourself holding heavy oars, rowing hard against the current, exhausted and frustrated. Then imagine yourself setting the oars down, letting the river carry you, feeling the release of tension. This image reminds you that peace comes not from controlling the current, but from trusting the flow. The next time you feel the urge to force, recall this image and choose to release. And remember, letting them does not mean letting go of your boundaries. On the contrary, it strengthens them. Because when you decide not to fight for control, you gain the clarity to see where boundaries are needed. Letting them is not passive. It is active wisdom. It is saying, I will not waste energy where I have none, but I will stand firm where I must. That balance is the heart of true peace. The let them theory is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Some days you will succeed, some days you will slip, but every attempt strengthens the muscle of release. Over time, you will notice the weight lifting, the calm growing, the joy returning. You will discover that you no longer need to beg for love, chase for approval, or cling to control. You can let them and still be whole. Because the truth is this: peace is not found in forcing life to bend to your will. It is found in choosing freedom over fear, trust over control, and calm over chaos. And the moment you choose to let them, you are not losing. You are finally winning the battle that matters most, the battle for your own soul. So today, take one step. Ask yourself the 3 questions. Try one act of letting go. Choose peace once, and then choose it again. Because your life is too valuable to be spent rowing against currents you cannot control. Put down the oars, let them, and discover the freedom that has been waiting for you all along.